Welcome to another episode of Searching for MacGuffin with your host, George.
Gabe.
And Link.
Hey, where's Dan? I thought he'd be back by now.
No, don't you remember he had that speaking tour he was going on?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I returned last week to qualify and quantify Daniel-san, our producer, as a full-time host. And because of that, he's been invited around the country to speak at multiple graduations and public outings. So congratulations to Dan, wherever you are in the country this week. We hope to have you back soon as a full-fledged host on the show. But in the meantime, the show must go on. And there's a show that is going on or was going on recently. It's done now. And that's what we're here to talk about. Anybody know what show we should talk about this week? Or last week?
This week, I think the show we should talk about this week is Peaky Blinders.
Okay.
I finished that.
I have not.
What do you think? What do you think of that ending? Let's spoil it right now.
Okay, so spoilers.
Well,
No, I'm just kidding.
I can't
No,
believe
we're not
Michael
gonna-
died.
no,
I mean,
stop.
Thomas
What?
Shelby died.
Did he accidentally spoil something? Okay. Did you finish the show for real?
Of course. I mean, I finished it when I got
That's
COVID
right. You finished it
because I'm a hacker.
illegally.
I'm a hacker,
I mean,
baby.
No, we don't do
remember
that.
those commercials they used to tell you about not pirating videos with like the Matrix music
Yeah.
and the really like intense text
Mhm.
screens?
That's me, baby.
I'm gonna
They're
send
like-
that to you.
That campaign was like pirating movies is like giving little kids drugs. That's what those commercials used to be. They used to just compare it to like the most heinous acts.
Yeah.
Yeah, pirating movies is like genocide. That's
Yeah.
No.
But no, today, well, at least when this episode drops, is July 11.
Yes, 11. My favorite number.
So we're
Really?
No, not at all.
Oh.
No, it was just for this episode, and now you called them out on it.
But I like 7-Eleven
I
Why?
also like
because of
7-Eleven.
their slushies.
I don't know. I
Hey,
just
we gotta.
gravitate towards
Hey, whoa,
7-Eleven.
whoa. 7-Eleven.
We have to go
Slushies. Yeah, we
to-
gotta go get
today,
slushies today.
In time today, we have to go slushies.
Oh, it
Slushies
is
today.
7-Eleven. Oh, today is 7-Eleven.
Mm,
Yeah.
we gotta get slushies.
I once met Shaquille O'Neal in a 7-Eleven.
Oh yeah, how
Yeah.
was
Wait,
that?
seriously?
No, I pretended to meet. I met a guy that looked like Shaquille O'Neal, and then like the kids in my school saw me across the street, and they were like, "Hey, who was that?" And I was like, "Oh, it was Shaquille O'Neal." And then they were like, "Nah, that's not true." And I was like, "Why would I make that up?" So then I had someone Photoshop me and Shaquille O'Neal at a 7-Eleven.
Mm,
Yeah,
to show you.
to
for
show
your
the kids. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
The length George goes to gaslight people.
Yeah.
Okay, well, when you put it that way, it makes me feel like a terrible person.
But you know what? You didn't pirate, so that's okay.
That's true, because that would be infinitely worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I mean-
can storm the Capitol. Not as bad as pirating.
And what? Oh yeah, according to the commercials.
Yeah, yeah.
Got it. Just to be clear, according to Hollywood's commercials.
Yes.
That does not reflect the views of this or maybe any other show, or maybe some shows.
Maybe George's views.
Who? George who? Bush?
Yeah, George Bush.
Okay.
He has a podcast?
He has something better than a podcast.
He
He
has
has a
TikTok?
book.
He has a book where he
Where
draws.
paints, where
yeah,
he paints people.
he paints immigrant
Wait,
faces.
seriously?
Yeah. George has it in it.
George Bush?
No, you have it.
I have it. Oh yeah, I do.
It's
have
in
it.
it's in your coffee table.
It's not in my coffee.
I don't know what it
table.
is. The table.
I don't
one's-
drink coffee.
It's in the table in the
It's in
living room.
It's on Gabriel's Celsius table.
There you go.
Yes.
Those are some strange points of conversation. But on to
Is there something stranger than that?
yeah, there's Stranger Things out there.
Like what?
The show Stranger Things on Netflix, which if you haven't seen, you probably got spoiled on social media.
Like I did.
Yeah,
I got
I
it.
did.
I got spoiled on social media, and I am angry.
Why are you angry, Link?
All right. First of all, spoiler alerts. We're gonna spoil what happens in season 4.
That's true.
So we are warning you. If you haven't watched it yet, then pause and watch it, and then come back and listen to our voices, because as we all know, we are therapy, and we want to therapy you.
Yeah. Yeah. I know the last couple of weeks while I was gone, you guys did a couple of like lifestyle topics. So I guess we were out of practice from handling this like media franchise response episodes, and
Yeah.
we totally forgot to give a spoiler warning at the end of last week's Obi-Wan. I mean, at the beginning of last week's Obi-Wan episode. So for those of you who are listening to the episode after that, I'm sorry. Okay, once again,
sorry.
spoiler for last week. Okay,
Sorry.
Spoiler for Peaky Blinders 2 also.
Yeah.
I hope that's not
Thomas
a real spoiler.
Shelby died.
for Stranger
I haven't
Things.
seen it. Okay. Stranger Things. Everybody has seen this show, or at least it feels like it.
Yes.
Well, but for those few people who are listening to this show who haven't, what is Stranger Things?
It's a show on Netflix. Super popular. Everyone likes it. A lot of people like it. A lot of people watch it. It's Netflix's highest rated show, like most viewed show.
Mm-hmm. It's their more expensive show.
Most
too.
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about
It's
it.
their most viewed show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like
I think by
their once the second part of season 4 was released, their servers crashed because so many people were watching it.
Netflix had crashed servers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Luke Cage crashed their servers too.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I mean, it's Power Man, bro. What do you expect?
Did that happen to us?
No, we watched
No,
it.
we
We
were-
didn't watch
yeah.
it at 3 a.m. But because so many people were watching it, a lot of people spoiled it.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. See, I hadn't watched. I told myself I was gonna watch all of season 4
Mhm.
together. I didn't want to wait after that split. So once Friday hit, I'm like, all right, time to watch it. But my cousin, who lives in Colombia, bless his soul, love
What's
him.
the opposite of a shout out? Shout down?
Shout down! I'm gonna shout you down. Dude, he was literally telling everyone, like retweeting, talking about,
Don't say it.
don't say it yet,
Yeah,
but
we're not
about
there.
someone's death on the show. So, and it was a very important death. Everyone, a lot of people were how do you call it? Were mentioning it was important, but they weren't spoiling it.
Mm-hmm.
And when he pretty much mentioned it to me, or not to me, on his timeline, I feel like I lost something special. You get me?
Yeah.
Because when I saw the death, I was like, okay.
In hindsight, you don't think maybe you would have been more prepared if you would have watched all of part 1 so that you were ready to watch the next episode as soon as it dropped?
No, I didn't want to do that. She wanted to binge watch it all
Yeah,
together.
but do you think you might have avoided spoilers if you
I could
only
have.
had, yeah.
I could have, but then there's also, it's being a good person, not spoiling things for like a week.
Yeah, but as we've learned recently, we don't live in a perfect world, and spoilers is maybe not the worst thing going on right now.
I mean, I ended up muting my cousin from Twitter.
Oh, so you'll never know.
I'm never going. Yeah, he
Okay.
can't spoil anything for me ever again. In fact, I'm gonna spoil stuff for him.
Okay, is he listening to this?
I don't know. I'm gonna DM him all. I'm
Oh,
gonna watch.
you
We're gonna
just-
watch Thor, and then whatever happens, I'm gonna spoil it for him.
As you're watching, you're not even gonna enjoy
Enjoy
the
it,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah, because you're gonna be too busy spoiling. Thor
Exactly.
while it happens.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's gonna be writing the whole script.
I think it comes out in South America first, so.
Good thing he's muted.
He emails you just pictures.
He WhatsApp me.
Yeah, he WhatsApp you. Hola, screen shares. And then,
He FaceTimes me.
Yeah. Okay, so Stranger Things. Something you didn't mention is like the genre, which is unique. First of all, for us talking about it on this show, and also I think for mainstream pop culture, and it's kind of a horror show,
Yeah.
right?
A suspense.
You know,
Suspense horror.
I mean, it's like it's got monsters, it's got jump scares.
I would say it's like horror for children. Does that make sense?
Strangely, yes.
It's not like, because
Strangely.
like we could watch it and we're not scared, right? But we do know that it is strong. But it's not. It's not
It's like for teens.
it's for
like
teens,
horror for
exactly,
teens, I mean, I kind of feel like horror is for teens, even though it's
But even
inappropriate.
but there's other.
that's the target.
There's other. Real horror is like that is like scary.
Right.
I think this is like if you want to get into that genre,
Yeah.
I think Stranger Things is a perfect show for that.
Yeah. It's like a gateway drug for horror, for the horror genre.
Yeah,
Right? Because it's like a little sci-fi, a little horror,
some
a little.
comedy,
Yeah.
and then from there you can go watch Sam Raimi.
Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
I mean, that is actually also a little horror,
Yeah.
a little genre. Okay. And the other thing is the setting. This show takes place in a very specific period. and that's the 1980s.
What a time.
Okay, you say what a time, but you were born in what year?
1996.
Okay, so to you, what does the 80s mean?
The 80s is, I have a stylized idea of the 80s based on films that came out at the time,
Such as?
such as you have Star Wars, Back to the Future, Karate Kid. I mean, you have countless of classics in the 80s, and I mean, as well as I think music. I particularly like music from the 80s.
Like?
Um,
A lot of reasons.
Guns N' Roses.
I mean, like half the classic rock bands of the day.
Half the classic rock bands of the day come from the 80s, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not the ones you like, but the ones
Yeah.
that I like are very prevalent in the 80s. So.
Yeah, I'm being a little sardonic because I'm not a big fan of this time period. I know hair metal was big during this time, and people look back at that nostalgically. I do think it was kind of a regression. I don't think there's as many like timely classic. What's really great about this period of music to me is soundtrack stuff. Because when you think about music, like for example on this show, and we'll probably get to it, but like iconic songs attached to moments. You know, let's talk about like Top Gun, for example. Take Your Breath Away, right? Not the best song in the world, but tied to this moment where you're like, okay, it carries significance. So for me, at least, like a lot of this music is iconic because of kind of the emotion it elicits, not innately in the music itself, but in the kind of like pop culture zeitgeist. Because there's kind of I hate to say like fetishizing of the 80s or but definitely an idealization of the 80s, like to the point where like our theme, right, is 80s inspired. Our aesthetic on this show here is kind of like 80s inspired. There's this idea of like what the 80s represented, but having grown up, and I was very young at the time, but having grown up at the 80s and in the wake of the 80s, I think some of it wasn't exactly as it's presented in media, but I do think like we go back and we kind of idealize all the best parts of the 80s.
How old were you during the 80s? Like, once the 80s ended, you were 6?
I was 6, yeah. So
Do you think you can have a fair judgment of that? Because I can't say that about the 90s.
you can't?
No,
No,
'cause
you don't think so?
Once the 90s end, I grew up, I was born in the 90s,
Right.
but I can, the 2000s, 2010, that's my era right there.
Yeah.
I can tell you what happened there. The 90s, I can't tell you much.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I can because a lot of the 80s stuff was still very, prevalent in the early 90s. We didn't have this like glut of media, So I was listening to 80s music and watching 80s movies. Like we talked about Batman 89, like one of the first films I owned on VHS, and it's probably 1990 when I owned Batman 89, but I'm inheriting all these movies, all this music and all this media from my older brothers and sisters that like that's their heyday, the 80s. So it's basically like all I had access to, in the late 80s when I'm like 5 or 6, I am starting to be exposed to those things.
Yeah.
But then even in like up to 92, 7 or 8, I'm still living in the 80s, because it's not like I don't have my own stuff. I just have everything left over from the 80s, All my toys were 80s toys, I had the He-Man, the G.I. Joes, the wrestling buddies, So I do think I'm very shaped by the 80s, for both good and bad, I don't get to start like getting into the 90s till around like 95, right? When I'm like 10, But you were saying you think a lot of the classic like what is some great 80s music from this time?
I think a lot of it's like just one hit wonders. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
a lot of the things in the the music industry is because I remember I used to watch these shows like VH1.
Yes.
I think I saw like a lot of reruns of those where they just retell the music from the 80s, the films from the 80s, the actors, the
they
celebrities.
have like the 100 greatest whatever from the 80s.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's just I think especially like since like you said, like your older brothers had a lot of this media that contributed to the upbringing. It's like one of those people like was my dad.
Mm-hmm.
My dad and he like I feel like I got the 90s from you.
Right.
I feel like I got the 80s from him. And then I came into my own, like, trying to figure out that was, like, in the 2000s and then the 2010s, growing up as a teenager throughout that time. But I think it's not till the 2000s that I'm start like going back and doing my, like, looking at my own to look for music. Like, that's how I randomly got into like the like classic rock, like hair metal, like glam rock and stuff, like and like that type of music genre. Which I remember one day we were going to school, and what was it? I was listening to, like, you put on a song by Aerosmith, and I was like singing word for word, and you were just like, "How do you even know this? Like, how old are you?" And I mean, I think it's just part of.
Around how old were you at that time?
I had to. I think probably 5th grade, so like 10, 11.
10, 11?
Yeah, and yeah, I mean that. I think that's just a common thing in our family. So I feel like obviously I wasn't alive during that time. I was coming at the end of the 90s, so yeah, I think that all those influences kind of go into it, which is why I think Stranger Things resonated with me. I think Stranger Things it's like they threw a bunch of like pop culture references into this one show.
Yeah.
To kind of like symbolize, I guess what it must have been like to live in the 80s.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can also see from the point of view, it's like, I guess a lot of those things get more recognition after the fact.
Yeah.
Not necessarily during the period of the 80s. So yeah,
isn't that for every? Can't you say that for every decade?
I don't know. I think, like, look, the 80s were a very trendy period, and I feel like, especially here in the States, where people were trying to, like, find their identity, I feel like a lot of stuff that happens, and of course, I'm biased, right, because I grew up in the 90s, but I think, like, a lot of the, like, trends and stuff that start to get shaped during that time become part of it, and 80s is, like, I think the last throwback, like, era. Like, there's 90s throwback also, obviously stuff that, you know, is no longer, but like 80s music sounds like 80s music, 70s music sounds like 70s music. And then like a lot of the foundations that, like, kind of the direction that rock and hip hop goes in the 90s, it's like it continues on from that point on. And I think fashion's the same way. A lot of 90s fashions come back or get altered, but nobody dresses like the 80s anymore. You know what I mean? The big hair, the like acid wash jeans.
Yet though, it could happen.
It could.
Yeah.
But it's also been over 30 years. So it hasn't come back up like in the regular cycle. You know what I mean? Because, and again, this is my argument, not to be, because like you said one hit wonders, and that's great. But then that's kind of a criticism to me, is like, there's not these great like catalogs being created. A bunch of people are doing like a bunch of individual songs, and like fashions like that too. Like the hair, it's kind of terrible.
We're not gonna go back. When was Michael Jackson?
Oh, Michael Jackson's amazing.
There you go,
yeah.
Michael Jackson. You have Guns N' Roses, Metallica.
Yeah,
these are all these bands and artists.
Yeah,
that became super popular in the 80s. I don't know why Stranger Things hasn't done Michael Jackson. Have they done? At least not yet, right?
Maybe they've been avoiding it.
I mean,
because of like post Michael controversy. I don't know.
But even then,
he has his fans. He has his detractors too. I don't know. But yeah, 80s Michael Jackson is, I think, peak Michael. I'll
exactly.
even say that, yeah.
And isn't that his whole catalog? I mean,
yeah, but see, for example, and again, this is personal taste, because I know a lot of people say like 80s Guns N' Roses, 80s Metallica is the best, but for me, 90s Guns N' Roses and 90s Metallica is better.
What's 90s Guns N' Roses?
90s Guns N' Roses is like Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, November Rain, your Live and Let Die. Things like 80s is like
the best part,
like all that, like
Welcome to the Jungle.
I don't think Welcome to the Jungle is the best.
It's their most popular.
It's the most popular, absolutely. But again, me personally, critically, it's not.
But
it's not the best.
I think right there is where you have it. I think the 80s are probably more popular.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Well, this is a complicated conversation. Yeah, I would say yes, in a sense that its identity is very clearly defined, as opposed to the 90s. I think is just like kind of the foundation of, like I said, the direction that things take. So it's not as clearly defined, because like, for example, Tupac, Biggie, like, is still relevant to this day as artists, not just as 90s artists. Does that kind of make sense? They're not like trapped in time, if that makes any sense.
No, yeah, I get you. I feel like the 90s are about finding identity, and I feel like hip hop really comes into its own in that decade,
Yeah.
and lays the groundwork for what's to come now. I think rap and hip hop are probably some of the biggest genres in music today.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of influences that come from there, obviously from the 80s, but I think it really comes into its own in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I guess this isn't a conversation about music.
Yeah,
but-
yeah.
Hey, we always say that we don't talk enough about music here, so it's okay to not have a little 10 to 15 minute like sideline on 80s music, because that also is a big foundation of what makes this show work.
Yeah.
The music on this show and the 80s aesthetic that it has is a big drawing point, especially early on.
Yeah, I mean, I particularly like the use of synth, which is why I guess I advocated a bit for it, like kind of to come into this show, because I don't know, like there's just something about the intro to Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
And when the intro starts playing, and I mean, I know it's been really overplayed in the recent years when in like Vine, TikToks and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and videos that people make, and they add the theme.
I'm gonna say yeah, even though I don't have TikTok,
But I think that's something that draws me. Like, I remember I didn't skip the intro for a while, probably not until like the second or third season. I just really was into I was really into the intro. One of the other shows. What other show do I didn't do that?
Peacemaker.
I don't really. That's
Peacemaker.
True.
I have never skipped the intro for Peacemaker.
I really like the intro for Daredevil on Netflix.
I'm not a fan of the visuals.
I really like the music.
I think the visuals are like generic, and I can't stand like a generic visual intro.
What do you think, Link?
No, I like it.
No, I just the way that the I don't know, what is it, blood forms the image of Daredevil, like it fills in the figures.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, I feel like I've seen that in so many. It's very reminiscent of like the Hannibal series did that, and a couple of other series have intros like that. Like Game of Thrones. You know how everybody loved the Game of Thrones intro? I couldn't stand that intro. I don't know. Am I alone? Link's looking at me because he's never seen Game of Thrones.
I've never seen Game of Thrones, so I don't know.
Because I like that the fact that they, as time went on, the intro kind of changed.
Yeah.
To like what houses were part of the story at that time.
It was just so long, I thought.
It was. I mean, yeah, it was pretty long, I guess. But I don't know.
But
when I first saw it, I was like, man, that was great.
Yeah, exactly. Like the first time. But the Stranger Things intro, it's pretty good, and this show is actually pretty good. This conversation comes again. What, a week? Oh yeah, we usually give about a week for everybody to finish.
Watch it so we can spoil it.
Yeah, so we can talk about spoilers. So we're gonna get into the spoilers now. I'll say, I don't know if we're gonna jump right into them, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say we've got about 23 minutes here. We're going to move directly into a free for all, in the sense that like spoilers can come up now. So fair warning, if you have not finished the 45 hours that Stranger Things feels
13.
like it lasts, is it 13? It's not 13.
It's almost 13.
It's almost 13?
Yeah.
Okay.
Season 4 is almost 13 hours.
Yeah, as a whole, right?
As a whole,
1 through 10?
9.
9? Okay. So it was, what, 7 in part 1 and 2?
2, yeah.
Yeah. So, again, most people probably saw episodes 1 through 7 like weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
I binged it before I left, a month ago on the trip, to come home to watch these final 2 episodes. Some people waited for the whole thing. But it's interesting because, we're giving it a week, right, for this season. But this conversation has been going on for over a month, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the conversation is probably already taken place. So even though this is like a timely release, it almost feels like
late.
Yeah, like the conversation has passed us.
Yeah.
This date, the 11th, this just seems like the perfect time to talk about it. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about how quickly the conversation of this show, like, just passed by.
I mean, I think that's a product of the Netflix system of releasing shows. You get me? You release everything at once. Your window of talking about something is a lot shorter than it is if you spread it out, right?
Yeah.
And they kind of did that. They were able to prolong it for a month because they, they released part 1.
They staggered the release.
Yeah, they staggered the release. You get me? Part of it in June or May, I'm not sure, and then in the first weekend of July. So they dominated. You could say they dominated the conversation, especially on TikTok, for that whole month.
Yeah, when did the Do you guys know when the first one came out?
I want to say it was like the last week of May.
Yeah.
So like the holidays then, both
Yeah.
holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I watched it like I watched it like the week after it came out, but I knew that I had to get in before I left.
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like since starting school, there's been a bunch of shows that come out, and I don't really like watch it. It's like I'm gonna get around to it whenever I can.
Yeah.
But I think this one, because that conversation is always gonna be out there, and I do want to watch it. Stranger Things is one of those things where like I try to make a point to move things around if I can.
Yeah.
And to get
Prioritize
a
it.
watch in. Yeah.
Oh, I got free recreational time. Well, this is what I'm gonna focus on it. I'm not like calling out of work for it, but if I have a day off and I don't got plans that weekend, that's what I'm gonna do. It's been a couple of years since we've done that though, because the show's been gone for a while. What has your experience been up to this point? Let's talk about going into the beginning of this season. What did you expect? Because I don't know what your relationship with the show has been like. It's been kind of up and down for me. I know others have, communicated the same idea. What did you think of the show going into season 4?
I don't know. I literally watch the show. That's a problem with the Netflix model. Like I watch it as it comes out, and then I don't go back to it. So I don't remember anything.
Yeah.
Or I vaguely remember stuff. So what's my experience? My only experience with Game of Thrones, Stranger Things is when I remember it came out in 2016. I started watching it on a Thursday at Thursday night at like 9 p.m. and I finished watching it Friday at 6 a.m. Then I had class at 8 a.m. So because of that, I thought that's how I'm going to watch Stranger Things. I'm going to be watching one sitting, one binge, and that's what I've been doing. With the exception of this season, because this season was too long. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And also, they spread it apart. So like I said, I couldn't. I had to wait for the second part to come out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my experience with Stranger Things.
Yeah, it's funny that you said that because I would binge it too, me and my wife. It was that Saturday night. No plans. It's just as soon as we tucked into bed at night, the whole thing till whatever hour, and then that's it.
And then
it's forgotten.
Forgot about it until season 2
For a
the
year.
next season came out, and I watched the recap on Netflix, and that's it.
Yeah, and it was like what? It's been 3 years since the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because of the pandemic, they
Right.
weren't able to record.
Yeah. So, and what about you, Gabe?
Yeah, this show is like, this is the binge. This is like you sit down and you're watching the whole way through, no matter what. Like I
would say that this is a show that created that, like the whole popularized.
It
binging.
popularized it for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. There was just when I think about this show, it's just feelings of like, listen, I'm grabbing a pizza. Whoever's with me, we're staying in. We're watching this till it's over, and that's what I think. Obviously, like you said, like made that binge model popular.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, it was like I feel like I have homebody tendencies, so like there was just something like comforting about just staying in and watching it. I mean, the first one comes out over the summer, so I'm at home. But I specifically remember the Halloween one, the one where they drop on Halloween.
Yes.
And that one was like
Was that season 1?
season 2.
Season 2.
That one was like, I mean, I have thoughts about the season, but when they released it, I was just all into it. Like, obviously, they have like the whole Halloween theme,
Ghostbusters,
and I mean, that's kind of.
That was a high point for me for season 2.
I did like how they, whenever they released it, that's kind of what they were going through at that time.
Yes.
Like the third season was July 4th during the summer.
Yeah, so there's a theme to it. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like it
It's
helps
cool.
to include.
Yeah.
It helps to include because the second season dropped Halloween
Yeah,
weekend.
that didn't
I'm
happen
pretty
this season though, right?
This season they do it in spring break.
Oh yeah, because he goes.
He goes to California.
Right.
Yeah, this season didn't really have it, I guess, because how they wanted to release it. Maybe the stagger release has something to do with
But
that.
it didn't even. The first part's not even during spring break, right?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, May? No, who's on spring break in May?
No,
in-
it's not.
The end of May.
You're-
That's
it's-
way too
it's
late.
Memorial.
May-
Oh, I'm
Memorial?
sorry. Yeah.
Memorial, is that the
May
end of
27th. Yeah, that's the end.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know
That's
what
when
you
it
mean.
dropped.
Yeah, my bad.
All right.
So yeah, I think what they were
It's
just trying
the
to.
show takes place.
I
in
think
spring
what they were
break.
trying to do at this point is
It-
just make sure people are in their homes for the holidays or for the holidays to like if you don't have any work
Right.
like they did drop the first part for Memorial Day, right?
Yeah.
And
And
then
who knows when it was
this one's 4th of
originally going to
July.
come out too?
Yeah.
Like at this point.
And I mean, with all the characters being super pop, like the actors getting more work, I'm assuming it got harder to schedule.
Mm-hmm.
The pandemic
people
too,
in.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the pandemic's probably a big one because, like we said, 3 years since Stranger Things 3. And it's funny now listening to you speak about like its significance and its impact. I'm starting to remember, especially with the quality of this season, just how much of a cultural phenomenon this show is, because 3 years is a long time, especially the last 3 years that we've had.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
like you said, if I forgot about it for a year and then came back to it, imagine what happens 3 years later.
Yeah.
So just even this very conversation that we're having right now is making me realize, yeah, that's right. Like we used to like program our lives around this.
It just feels so long. Like if I'm looking back to when the first 2 seasons come, I'm like I was still an undergrad in college, like
Mhm.
away, and just thinking about like how my life has changed, how my life is different since then. And it like watching the recap videos or like having to go right before starting this season, seeing what even happened, because I feel like a lot of times the seasons bleed into each other. For
Right.
me, like I just forget what happens in specific seasons. Like it happens for me, especially with like seasons 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that like I flip flop and seem like, oh, that happened then. Oh,
Yeah. I mean, when this show started, I was in a completely different stage of my life. Like I'm going to my 6th year teaching at the school that I teach at.
mhm.
So, and I was somewhere else, you know. So that's how much different, you know, my life was when this show first started. And we're only in volume 4 or however it is that they refer to it.
Chapter?
Yeah, no, I think they call it every episode a chapter.
Oh,
And
okay.
they just number the season.
Book.
So they're not seasons. Or Stranger Things 1, Stranger Things
Yeah,
2,
yeah.
like as if they were a movie. So let's get right into it. What what makes season 4 so good? Stranger Things is back, right? I had my doubts. I like I said, season 2 I thought was okay. I wasn't sure why this was a continuing series. Stranger 3 was strong. What makes 4 so good? Head and shoulders above. I think my take, best season since 1. What do you guys think?
No, yeah, I agree.
I agree.
Why?
I think they have a good villain, and I think that they have like
Yes.
the story begins like I feel like this is like there's like a big reveal, and I wasn't expecting it. I guess with the villains that we've had so far in the show,
because we haven't really had villains,
Exactly.
right? We've had like almost forces of nature.
they're like supernatural like
Yeah.
entities.
yeah,
they're
they're not
beasts.
personalities.
You had demidogs, and then you had Billy.
Well, first you had
Yeah.
no, you have
No,
'Cause you-
the first one was like
the Demogorgon.
The Demogorgon, yeah, that one's great. But then season 2, you have a demidog,
Demodogs, right?
and it's like, okay, that's not as bad as season 1.
right. And then you have the Mind Flayer.
Then you have the Mind Flayer
Yeah, and
or
then,
Billy. It's
and in season
I
3,
mean,
like
because I don't feel Billy's the bad guy. I feel
no,
like
no, yeah.
Billy isn't the bad guy, but I do
but,
like
but
what
Billy
they did.
is scary.
Yeah, I do like-
Billy
but
is
I do
scary,
like
yeah.
what
they
they
put a
did.
face on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They personalized it, and I think he knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, he
I
did
think
great.
he did fantastic.
And that's what they're able to do with this one. Add a scary face to it.
Yeah, there's like a scary face, but beyond that, I mean, obviously this is going to the end, but I feel like it picks apart, like it just feels like they laid groundwork,
Yes.
and that groundwork started to be uncovered. You
And-
started to see the fruits that they planted since season 1. I don't know if they planted that way the whole time or just made it work,
Yeah.
but how everything happened, like the identity of
They reveal a lot more this season.
of Vecna.
They go back and explain season 1, which I
yeah.
love when a show does that.
Exactly.
And it's funny what you said. I don't know if they laid down the groundwork. You're right. Like, I don't know if this was the plan, if they had this in their pocket the whole time for the end game, or if they just really went back and, like, added so that it all fit perfectly. But you know what? That's good writing. Because when I don't know if this was your plan all along, or if you're just, like, genius, like, reworking it now, that's just strong writing.
And that's what I think. I think the writing is very strong this season. I feel like in previous seasons, maybe even in 2, 3, had a strong writing. But I think as these characters develop, I feel like the actors themselves try to carry more weight in 2, that the writing doesn't actually like necessarily hold them up.
Uh-huh.
Like they're working off the success of season 1 and season 2, that I feel like the writing kind of struggle takes a hit.
Yeah.
You're focusing more on I don't want to say
What do we
like
do?
flashy, like exactly. You're just
I
like,
feel like
where's the direction of the show going?
Trying to catch lightning in a bottle twice, you know?
Yeah.
Like, because Stranger Things didn't need to work. It didn't need to find the audience that it did, but it hit for the right time and place, cross-cultural appeal. And then it was like, how do we do that again? You know?
Yeah.
And I think that
Ghostbusters.
yeah, exactly. Like, we like those highs, but you know what? When you said the tight writing, they've had a ton of time to work on this, I'm guessing, with the extra downtime, right? And it shows, because I feel like this year, more than any other year, we have been disappointed with the level of writing on certain shows. You know, we've talked about on the Boba Fett episode, on last week's Obi-Wan episode, in the Doctor Strange episode. You know, so much content is being pushed out, probably because there was a lack of content during that period, you know, during the pandemic. But with it has come a couple of disappointments. Like, we're all in already, but we're not seeing like the craft, like the attention to detail. And I went into Stranger Things 4 without much expectation. You know, I was going to watch it because, you know, it's a thing and I've watched it this far. And it blew me out of the park.
No, I think
it blew you out of the park.
Yeah, I regretted saying it the moment it came out of my mouth.
I think that for me, it was just a long time that had passed.
Maybe we missed them. You get me?
That it was just no, like that was before I even saw it. Like they announced Stranger Things is coming out. Stranger Things is coming out. Obviously, I was getting busy around that time when season 4 is coming out. But I think that I don't know what happened. There's been like not necessarily a rush to see things recently for me. Like I'm not in a rush to go see things like when shows drop. And maybe it's just because there's so much content that when Stranger Things is coming out, I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it, get around to it. I remember the first day, I think it is, everyone's talking about it. I'm back in. I'm not getting anything spoiled for me right now. It happened in volume 2 because for some reason, like the morning of that it comes out, like
that's ridiculous.
Everyone's just like,
you follow my cousin too,
posting pictures of what happened, like character stuff, and I don't know.
And I'm so glad that for the most part I avoid that social media. But even like I'm on Reddit, which, you know, yes, is social media.
Yeah.
But I try to avoid everything around that window because I can't believe, man, that people. Well, I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but if anyone's out there and you're sharing spoilers the day of, even the weekend of, even the week of, come on, man, not everybody's got the same schedule. Like, it's also show respect to the creators.
I wonder too if it's because it's the summer and a lot of people are off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and especially like this, obviously, like it's not another half of the season. It might feel like it because it's long. The last 2 episodes are long, but it takes shorter amount of time than to finish 7 episodes.
Yeah.
Because you're watching like an extended movie basically for those last 2 episodes. Like, I understand, like, it's easier for people to just watch it and then just straight up talk about it. It's not a good thing, but I can see, like, how it's more accessible for more people to talk about it. Like, you just, like, it is summer. You stay up till 3 or wherever you are, 9 or no, midnight, sorry. And then just watch it and then talk about it. I'm not a big fan of that because it sucks when things get ruined. I am glad though that the big reveal didn't get ruined, like about Vecna.
Vecna. Okay, so let's talk about Vecna because that was my next talking point.
That you liked about the season?
Yeah, to me,
Vecna. Yeah,
to me, that's the linchpin of this series. Vecna, a real villain who contextualizes the whole series. He's the villain,
and he was always
all along.
Has always been there.
It's always been him.
Yeah,
it's always been him. But to make that come to the forefront and following all at the beginning of the show of this season, I was like, there's too many characters and too many story. And I think Millie Bobby Brown even said that.
And they add more characters.
Yeah, and yes,
and characters that I love. Like I'm a big fan of the new characters that we get.
Like
not Steve.
Eddie?
Eddie. I really like Eddie.
Okay.
Eddie,
I really like Eddie. I mean, I guess in this season, but like Alexi in the last one in season 3.
Right.
Which I guess we'll go into what I didn't like after. But I enjoy when they add new characters. even though with Max, like Max and
She steps up so much.
Max and what's her
She's
brother's
grown
name?
so
Billy?
much. She was.
I don't even know. Like I forgot they were in season 2.
Yeah, I feel like everything I knew about them was from season 3, but we went back and reviewed, and oh no, this was season 2 stuff.
yeah.
Season 2,
It was just in our minds so forgettable season 2, but no.
and they really like she carries her.
R.I.P.
Own.
Sam Wise Gamgee, bro.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
carries-
You forget about him.
My wife forgot he was on the show at all. Yeah.
She carries, and like I think Max does a very good job. She's one of my favorite parts of the show.
I think Max is the best actress on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree
was
with that.
I was amazed by her acting.
Yeah, I think, and especially this season.
Yeah, I mean, she like I feel like the plot is really focused
Centered on her,
and
yeah.
on her, and that episode that she has is
That's episode
so
4. Episode 4.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember because a friend of mine, the host of another show, messaged me out of the blue, watch Stranger Things and tell me what you think about episode 4. And I'm like, this is weird. It's not usually the conversation we have, but they were right. Like,
Yeah, and
that's what made me. That's what made me like, okay, like people in my life are telling me I need to do this right now. And that's why I made sure I did.
yeah, and it's just this season has a lot of moving parts that can get messy very easily to the point where sometimes you're just like, huh.
Why are we following all this?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we'll get to some characters in a
Yeah.
bit, but I think that they don't overdo it. It's ambitious, but I think they land it.
They do a
Depending on where
really
they
good job of juggling
Yeah,
all of that.
Yeah.
Despite, there are moments where I think
because
it's long in the tooth, but
there are times when I'm not really I'm not really caring about the whole, like once 11 leaves Mike and the guys
that's
and
it. That crew's
Jonathan
done for me.
and Jonathan, I'm like,
Oh, there you go. The new character,
Uh,
Argyle.
yeah, like I'm not
a fan of
I'm
Argyle.
not either. But once like Elle leaves and it's just them and they're trying to figure out what to do,
That's boring.
I'm just like, eh. But then like they order a pizza, they open the door, and the agents just get shot up. The house, like that one
scene
shot,
is amazing.
to me, like that threw
Such
me back. In
beautifully
episode 4
directed.
too, that threw me back in. I'm just like, this is so good. I hadn't seen anything like that in Stranger Things.
You know, and that was the thing. They told me watch episode 4 and tell me what you think. When that happened, I was like, they're right. That's not even it.
But for me, that was it.
But it was it.
Because
yeah.
I remember I had texted my friend. I was like, oh, I had just seen the thing in season 4. We had another person in there who hadn't seen it, so I couldn't be as descriptive. And he's like, oh, I know I know where you are then. I know what you're talking about. So I talked to him after, once like the other person had seen it. And he thought I was talking about the Max scene. And I was like, this Max scene is amazing. But for me, what stole that episode was the scene in the house.
Well, it's a 1-2 punch for me, man. That episode is just brilliantly written and directed.
It is. It's so good, but I also feel like they're not doing the same old thing.
Yeah.
They're progressing.
Which is easy for them to do, 4 seasons in.
Yeah. And I mean, I know that you mentioned, I guess, that whole thing like about the 80s and how this shit doesn't feel like it as much like recently, and I guess in this season.
Yeah, I said that off the air, but I was saying that early on the show relied heavily on its 80s setting to kind of find its tone, and now it's kind of moved away into its own mythos, and the whole 80s aspect is a little more in the background.
Yeah, and I personally, I guess it's not that big of a deal for me. I like how they're approaching it. Like they have
it's still
elements,
the 80s, yeah.
They have the elements of the 80s, but this show isn't identified as like, this is a show about the 80s.
Right.
I feel like that's how it was in the beginning, and I feel like that's what it needed to be. But I feel like it's out. It's kind of grown out of
It's
it.
a positive rather than a negative.
For me, it is.
Yeah,
At least.
Okay. I can see that. Yeah, absolutely.
Steve, favorite character? He's just
Steve
so
is the
good.
best. You can't go wrong with Steve, right?
I like the flip-flopping here, where when this show started, we wanted Nancy to break up with Steve and go with
because
Jonathan.
Steve was a jerk.
Yeah, and now we're on the other opposite end of that, where now we want
We
her.
want her with Steve.
No,
and
no, I'm sorry. I want Steve with every woman on earth,
I don't, including
including my
your
mom.
mother.
Including my mom,
Okay.
your wife.
That's
I want Steve with everyone.
just to be clear.
I'm Team Steve.
My wife is not your mom. It sounded like they were the same
Even
person.
my mom.
And,
I would, and your wife, and Gabriel's mom, and Danny's mom.
And you want to be wifeless for the rest of your
If
life.
it means that Steve is happy,
I don't think Steve would be
it'd
happy.
it'd be worth it.
I don't think you understand how relationships work.
I don't know. I think I understand how Steve works.
I like the mystery of Vecna's upbringing. Like even just Vecna's a villain, but I liked one's like Henry.
The multiple mysteries that are all the same mystery,
Yeah.
unbeknownst to ourselves.
And
throughout
it
the
all
season.
how it all connects, how everyone's finding it out at the same time.
One Henry Vecna. Yeah.
Like that the last episode before they go to break. What is it? 7?
Yeah.
It was so good.
They had us because I remember early on in the season we were complaining about Vecna as an identity because we're like, is he really Vecna? Is he really just like this Dungeons and Dragons character?
Yeah.
Because we weren't even a little bit suspicious that these three mysteries were tied together.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, the show felt like three completely disparate like crews doing on three completely disparate missions, and for them to just coalesce the way they do.
Yeah.
Man, at the end of
They did that
episode
so well.
8,
with the upside down.
with the upside down, the bicycle.
Oh my goodness! Like the
moment
they
where
gave
both-
us more, because I feel like what's iconic in the first season is the lights.
Yes,
How they talk through how Will talks to the lights to his mom.
Oh, you see that? Yeah, you see a lot of that.
And I
more
feel
here.
like they just amplified it in this. They made it, obviously it makes sense, but like you get to see a different perspective, a different
progressed.
how it moves forward, because this villain is putting work behind the scenes. His hands have been in everything since the beginning.
Yeah,
And like I said, I think it's brilliant.
where it's like it's season 4, but it's also season 0 because we see what led us to the beginning of season 1. Yeah, I think it was brilliantly structured. Should we talk about the length?
The length threw me off.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I didn't like about it, how long each episode was.
Mm-hmm.
And especially that last episode, I felt like I watched a movie, which is cool. You get me?
I think that was their goal.
It's cool, but man,
I
wasn't able to do that binge watch I said I do in one sitting.
Right.
It was a lot.
And also, I had already planned, like, I knew the last one was almost 3 hours, so I'm like, I'm going to watch.
220?
Is it 220?
Yeah.
Is there one episode that's like 240?
No.
No? Okay, so that's the longest one,
Yeah.
the 221. Oh, I guess I'm thinking because I watched, it's probably like 340, like if you combine the last two together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, I'm going to break this up, like, in a couple of different, watches. But no, I couldn't sleep because I was jet lagged from my trip. So I actually stayed up and watched. What are the last two numbers again?
8 and 9.
8 and 9 in one sitting. I really didn't mean to, but it was like almost 4 o'clock in the morning by the time I was done with it. And I was like, I did not plan to do this. But just watching that was almost the experience I used to have watching the whole season.
Yeah.
I think they got to tell a lot of great story, but I do think it could have benefited from some editing. I think there's limitations.
I think if they would have been able to break it down into 42-minute episodes, you get me? Still have the same amount of,
you could have been the same thing. Right?
Yeah, same length of hours, you get me?
A longer
But
season,
more
episodes.
episodes, more season. And even then, breaking that up in half or, having a part 2 would have made more sense.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been such a 7 and then 2.
7 and 2, that
right?
was
Which is
weird.
weird, right? But if you...
I understand why they did it, though, thematically.
No, yeah.
Yeah?
No. I think if they done like this, it would have been... You'll explain that.
Okay.
But I think this would have been more... What's the word? It would have been easier to digest.
Yeah.
If it were done this way. And it would have made more sense breaking it up into.
Let's talk about that. Why do you think they broke it up the way that they did?
I feel like as we progress in the streaming wars, I feel like the line, they're trying to blur not that on purpose, but I feel like I guess it is on purpose. They're trying to blur the lines of what is TV and what are movies, because these are like...
Yeah, I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think we've lost sight of what is TV at this point. Like, I don't even know if there is a definition anymore.
By conventional methods, like we have episodes that are just like an hour and a half, 2 hours now, and
What other shows are doing that?
Well, like Game of Thrones used to do, like,
it?
the finale is like 2 hours long. Like the season.
Someone did it. Who did it? I gotta remember.
You mean on like streaming?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, it's a relatively new trend.
There was one.
I know we've had
I'll look it up.
longer finales, for example.
Maybe Peaky Blinders,
Peaky Blinders
because they would have like an hour and 6.
has done it. Didn't we have this conversation about like BBC shows?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we talked
Well,
about
like
like
Sherlock
Sherlock
and
as a
stuff like that.
format. Yeah, it's a shorter season but longer episodes. But then again, there are only 3 episodes for that. Sherlock had an innovative format
Yeah.
to begin with. It was always 3 almost movie length episodes.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other examples.
There was
of that.
something, man, and I'm not remembering.
I think
it.
too. I don't know if you mentioned this to me, but like subscribers. You get me?
Yeah.
We know that Netflix has lost a lot of subscribers,
Mm-hmm.
and releasing it in 2 parts means you hold on to those subscribers at least for 1 more month.
Right.
And if they
One more, Lord. One more.
and if they have a quarterly system, right,
Mm-hmm.
right, where they talk to the investors and stuff like that, then you end on a high note on the second half of the year. I mean, the first half of the year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and then you start with a good at the second half, right?
No, like
Yeah, they ended near May, right? So they're having a good, to June. That's the second quarter of the year, and then they're starting the third quarter in July strong.
yeah, exactly.
No, yeah. So you have a
So
good idea.
it makes sense like that for them to have those subscribers, to have the numbers, because they've lost a lot of people, a lot of subscribers, right?
Yeah.
So that's another reason why
Why do you think they broke it up this way though? The 7 and the 2.
the 7 and the 2.
Yeah.
That I don't know, man.
Netflix probably told them, hey, if we need to take a break for a couple of weeks, where would you want to break this up? And they're probably like, the reveal.
The Vecna reveal, right? To them,
Yeah.
that was the big one.
Yeah.
What if they would have ended what if they would have gone 4 and 5? What if they would have ended on that high note of 4 where everyone talks about it and then included the
What is
Vecna
that
reveal
it?
with the finale? I think
Max escaping.
Max is escaping.
Okay, yeah.
The
I think we could mention it now, right?
what's
We
the
said
song?
spoilers.
Yeah. We keep
Let's mention it,
talking
yeah.
around it. Yeah. What's the
Matt
song?
Six
Running up the hill.
running up the hill by
Yeah.
Kate
Which
Bush.
I know everybody's Kate Bush. I always say the wrong name, but yeah, Kate Bush.
George Bush. You think?
No, I say Sophie Bush, who I
Mm.
don't. I'm not sure who she is, but
One Tree Hill.
she's definitely. Oh, okay. I've never seen that. Is
Tree Hill.
that the song? I don't.
That's not the
That's
song.
not the
Okay.
song.
I don't want to be.
I don't want to be in One Tree Hill.
That's also not the song. So Kate Bush's famous song, which she made like $3.5 million off of in the past couple of weeks, which is incredible. I know everybody's algorithm is different, but the TikToks I overhear, it's just that in the new Harry Styles song, like constantly.
Yeah, it's
over
those.
and over and over.
I mean, it's because of the algorithm, right? Like if you want your video to go popular, you have these songs, either the Harry Styles or the Kate Bush song, knowing that it's gonna get you more views. So everyone's playing it because they want the views on there.
Okay, I see how it is.
But yeah, you're right. It's insane how she became super popular, which goes, I was listening. I was looking at a podcast. I mean, I'm sorry, at a TikTok video about this guy who's also a musician,
Mm-hmm.
and he was saying that sometimes it's it's a struggle starting, right? And you kind of like wonder if this is all worth it. Am I ever gonna get popular? Am I ever gonna get big, famous, right? And then, but she used Kate Bush as an example, right? She released this song in the 80s,
Right.
and it's not until now that she
Mhm.
becomes super popular. I mean, I don't know how big she was in the 80s.
I don't think
Right?
very big. Yeah.
Maybe indie, yeah, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But look how big she is now, right? And so that's what this artist was saying. Like, I might not be big now, but 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
you get me?
Yeah.
So
that's-
never give up on your dream.
All right.
So that's what this show right here, baby. Stranger Things, put it on.
Yeah. In 2055 that you're listening to the Stranger Things
Duffer
season 4
Brothers.
episode. All right. And enjoy. All right. We're probably long dead, or at least I am. So you ready to talk about the ugly side or the stranger side of Stranger Things? What
Argyle.
Okay.
Argyle.
Yeah.
That was the strangest part, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Weird guy.
This was a weird addition. I'm not sure what he contributed.
I have no idea. The van. He drove the van.
He drove
it
the
was
van.
Scooby.
I feel like there was a way. You know what? The whole Scoobiness of, like, I don't like Jonathan being basically turned into Shaggy.
I wasn't a big. I don't know what
I mean-
Jonathan did this season. I wasn't a big fan, and that's
He
why
He was
digressed.
just, yeah.
he was just
digressed,
like,
yeah.
man,
Stoned the whole time.
you got like
He digressed, and the others, Will and Mike progressed as I mean, they're older. You get me?
Yeah.
So I didn't really need his brother, but he's I don't want to say he's an adult, but he's older, right?
Well, he's an adult. He's in college already.
No,
He's a senior.
he's entering. Yeah, I remember the acceptance.
Oh, he's applying.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but you're right.
I think he's 18 already.
Yeah, he's 18.
Yeah.
But they didn't man. He digressed as a character.
Well, Licorice Pizza taught me that in the 70s you were an adult at 15. So maybe that's still true in the 80s or
Maybe.
Okay, but yeah, absolutely. Not just as a person, but as a character.
As a character.
Because like you said, his utility, I'm not sure what him and Argyle contributed at all.
They drove. They were.
Yeah, the only thing they had going on was, or that he had going on was his relationship with Nancy, and then they don't spend the season together at all.
And then half the time I want Nancy with somebody else. So
right. But I think that's purposeful, but I'm not sure why.
I don't know why.
Yeah, they stripped him of everything.
And they kind of mention it at they kind of talk about it at the end where it's they're not on great terms.
Yeah.
Who else? I don't know what has been going on. I haven't really been a big fan of Mike recently.
Now you mentioned Will and Mike, and I kind of feel like the show has outgrown them.
Yeah.
If that makes
any
sense.
when Max is the second, not best, but the second biggest character in the season.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, you can say that, right?
Yeah. She stole the show.
She stole the show,
Yeah.
right? Do we need? I mean, because the
She's
other
a better
two,
actress.
yeah, she's a way better actress, right? But with Lucas and what's his name, Dustin, right? They contribute a lot in their part.
Yeah.
These two, they're not contributing in their part. You get me? The only thing they contribute is
they were
finding Susie.
They were
Susie does everything for them.
I mean, wow, that's funny. They were like Finn and Rose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In The Last Jedi when they go off, and I don't really care. But yeah, I don't know.
So next season will they be like Finn and Rose were there and they don't do anything?
They don't do
I
anything.
heard they're gonna have a lot of
But even then,
the original pairings.
He is according to the will, he is the heart of the team, right?
Yeah.
So he has to play a bigger role, but he didn't play much of a big role here, right?
The heart of the team.
But
That Dustin is the heart of the team, actually.
I agree. Dustin
true.
is probably.
Dustin's out.
Don't
Dustin?
say Steve.
No, because Steve's not part of that.
Yeah,
the main.
exactly.
Dustin is a part of the team. But to what
Dustin's what connects Steve. He's what connects Eddie.
Steve.
Yeah.
Lucas as well. You gotta be Maxine because Maxine and Lucas aren't talking to each other, right? So he connects them.
Mm-hmm.
He has
a girlfriend that saves.
He has the girlfriend that saved season 3.
Right.
Without her in season 4, we don't.
It'd be aimless.
Crew. That crew would be aimless.
Mm-hmm.
But you also, what was I gonna say? Dang, I forgot. Lost my train of thought.
But you also have
before that.
The
Mike.
heart. He's not the
Oh
heart.
yeah, like how Gabriel was saying, like the writers, the Duffer brothers, were saying that next season it's gonna be very Will heavy.
Okay.
Because it seems like
it starts with him.
It starts with him, right? And they're back in Hawkins. He is the one that has that connection with Vecna now. So it's gonna rely a lot on him. So maybe Mike and him, progress, and they
definitely progress.
Or digress in their relationship. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where
that's going.
I don't know if those two crazy kids are gonna make it work.
But one thing that I didn't like was, and we kind of mentioned it here, is how many storylines are going on at the same time, right? At one point, I think there were like 5 storylines. Yeah. You had the kids in Hawkins. You had 11.
Hopper.
You had 11. You had Hopper by himself.
Yeah.
You had Joyce and the cuckoo guy. I don't know.
I'm glad that none of us know
his name. Yeah, the dog. I don't know
what's his name.
Who are we talking about?
The guy that's with Joyce.
The bald guy. And then you had Will and Mike's pairing, like that group. 5 different stories, and eventually they start to coalesce, and you can see where it's going. But man, it was a lot to keep up with. And then you also include
Murray.
That's right.
Murray Bell.
You include this other guy, the guy that's trying to kill. I forgot his name. The blonde hair.
Blonde.
Yeah, the varsity blonde guy.
Oh, no, I can't say what.
So it's like, man.
Troy Bolton.
Racist Troy Bolton.
Is he racist? That's okay. Anyways, moving on.
Psychopath, Troy Bolton.
Better, more accurate.
But yeah, it's like, wow, you had so many stories going on. It was hard to keep up, and like how Gabriel said earlier, like I'm kind of bored of this. Don't give me. I don't care. I didn't care about Will and Mike when you had all these stories going on.
I feel like they could have trimmed the fat.
Yeah.
As tight as the narrative is, I feel like there was stuff that could have been left on the editing floor.
And even then, like, I know the conversations are supposed to mean a lot, especially between Mike and Will. But I just can't get over the fact, like, Mike does not do a good job of acting and like delivering and things like that.
They fall flat sometimes.
Like the point where he finds the message in the pen. He's like, why would he give us the pen? Huh? Oh my gosh, I just found, and I don't know, a lot of like some of his line delivery just wasn't falling for me. But yeah, those are some of the things I don't like.
One thing we mentioned, I personally didn't like this, was the love triangle again. I'm not
Which one?
Of Steve. I'm sorry. Yeah, Steve, Nancy, and Jonathan.
Right.
I don't like doing that because I feel like we're going back.
Right.
And it's
we've been here
digressing.
before.
We've been here before. We know we're right.
And also, it's not fair because, like, I think for a love triangle to work,
all them have to be there.
Yeah, exactly. You're really stacking the deck against Jonathan here.
Yeah. So it's like, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. Like I said, I think Steve deserves any woman he wants.
An interesting take.
Yeah.
Even the one that Jonathan's with.
Even the one that Jonathan's with.
What about that Eddie death?
I mean, wait, we talking about things we don't like?
No, I don't know. It depends. Did you like it?
I don't think he had to die.
I don't think he. No, see, someone has to die every season.
Yeah, but does it always have to
Yeah,
be
does
a
it have to be
character
the
you
new-
just introduced?
The new character?
I mean, there's repercussions in the sense that we don't know what's going to happen with Max. You get me? We lost her.
Yeah. You know, and that was controversial
Yeah.
for me as it was happening because I was like, oh, if they, like, when they break all her arms and legs, I was like, oh, if she gets...
She's done.
Yeah, I was like...
No, they broke her legs and I was like, she's gone.
Yeah,
They broke
I was
her
like,
legs,
that's it. She's
blind
dead.
now, yeah.
Right? And then she does die. And I'm like, oh, they actually committed to it. And then she's not. And I'm like, I don't want Max to be dead, just to be clear. But I feel like they killed her.
No,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I said that to you before. I was like,
Yeah.
it was one of the things I didn't like. They just kind of made her Rey and they had that Rise of Skywalker moment. Where
You
she
mean
just
by
like,
her 11?
Yeah, 11. They made 11 Rey and they bring her back. And I'm just like, obviously, like you said it. You brought up a good point. I said that I didn't like that. I think they should have committed. But I don't want Max to die.
Right.
Like, she's one of the best parts of the show. And I don't know. Because honestly, once they break her leg, if she's not actually like
Crippled for life?
yeah, is she brain dead? Like,
she's in a coma.
She's
We
in a
don't know,
coma?
Yeah.
But then she healing
they
magic.
destroyed her limbs. I was just like, once that happened to her, I was like, oh, okay, I guess they're doing it. This is it.
Yeah. I was sure. Because, okay, when they destroyed her limbs, but they interrupted it before she was dead, I thought, oh, she's just going to be magically healed. But then she died. And I was like, oh, I wasn't ready for them to actually kill
Killer,
Max.
yeah.
But then they brought her back. But then her arms and legs are destroyed. I guess it all
broken.
depends
That can
what
heal, you
direction.
get me?
I don't. Yeah, it was really bad, man. It's not just like a break. It's not like she fell and broke an arm. Man.
All limbs.
She's young, though.
all limbs
She's
were
young.
broken.
She can start walking soon, eventually. You get me?
It's also not like you fell and like got it out of place. She it's like a
Snapped
90-degree
and then
angle.
fell.
I
Yeah,
know,
like, it's like
but
a clean
but
break.
that's what happened to basketball players, and they're back up playing basketball.
Not to every limb simultaneous, and the eyes, the brain, the blood,
I mean, yeah, that's a part. Yeah,
Because the thing is, her body's not in any state to heal. You understand? It's like a complete. I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting.
Also, she was brain dead for like a minute, or her heart
she
stopped
died.
for like
Yeah,
a
her
minute.
heart
died
stopped. So
for-
she probably has.
She has that.
she
she has
probably-
to be brain
brain dead,
dead.
yeah.
Unless the force is strong with
The
11.
force is strong, and they dressed her up like a stormtrooper too.
That they did do that.
Yes.
Why do they shave 11's head when she goes through this like process?
Better force connective powers.
Oh, okay. The hair.
Better
gets in the
reception.
way?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder, did they cut her hair in real life for
I
this?
think so.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because I've seen her now, and she has long hair, but I don't know.
Actually,
Sounds
no,
like
I don't
you're-
think so.
What?
I think she had. I think that's
A
a
wig?
cap. Yeah, I think it's a cap.
Really?
I was really surprised too because I'm pretty sure I
Wait,
saw a
wait.
picture
Are you
of
saying
her.
that's a lie or that's a skull cap?
What's a lie? What?
Because you said that's a cap. So
Oh, no.
Is that that
Like
lingo?
a wig cap, like with that hair, with the
Okay.
short hair.
I have a question.
Yes.
So many storylines in this part. I got a little bit confused.
Uh huh.
At the end, all the storylines kind of came together, right?
Correct.
They were all fighting Vecna. How did Hopper, Joyce, and Murray
What is it?
contribute?
Henry/1/Vecna.
Yeah, how did
Mhm.
how did these people contribute to what was going on in Hawkins?
Which one again?
Hopper, Joyce, like them fighting the Demogorgon. How does that contribute to them?
Because why you're stumping me? I something because there's a Demogorgon. And...
Yeah, I was wondering, like, because I thought, okay, I thought that they were all gonna meet together.
Right.
So I thought they were somehow a
Yeah,
portal
but there's-
in
yeah, but
Russia that they were gonna go to.
I thought so too, but
I don't
no.
know how they. I mean, maybe it's a separate
It
incident.
is just a side story. It's just honestly a story to explain the ending of last season. To be honest with you, that's how I interpreted it.
But they made it seem
no,
like it was part.
because it's hive mind. So
because it's hive mind. Yeah, everything that happens in the
it
upside
affects
down
it
and the
affects,
animals here.
It
yeah.
affects Vecna. So
If
if you
you're a-
kill those things, you weaken.
If you're
Vecna.
killing the Demogorgon and burning
even if it's
Vecna's
even
body,
if it's in this
and-
world.
yeah,
Yeah.
because
Oh,
they're
okay.
still an extension of him.
Oh,
It's
okay.
hive
There
mind.
you go. I was
What did
about
you think about his survival? Now that we're winding down to the end here.
Who Vecna?
Yeah.
Vecna's survival.
I
Yeah.
think it's good. You
Yeah, you need a final villain.
need a final
and
villain.
that has to be the final villain. I don't want. That's the thing. I didn't really want another big bad
Right.
for last season.
I thought they were going that way when at first they said that like Vecna was his general.
Yeah,
I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they're gonna reveal another big bad. But it turns out, sure, one's a general, but he's the same person.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Maybe. So what I think is gonna happen because
Yeah, bro, it's like Anakin Vader.
apparently, like there's season 5. There's gonna be like a 5-year gap, like a 5-year jump.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
So maybe within
because they
those
can't
5
keep pretending like these kids are the same age.
exactly. So
Right.
maybe
I didn't know that.
Maybe this 5-year gap, it's him regaining his powers.
Okay.
Because he completely got destroyed. Not completely destroyed, but he got
Yeah.
he's
Got,
dust apparently, and I don't know what he is, disintegrated.
He's just that
He-
thing from Lost.
Yeah,
really? Oh, the what was that called? The fog.
the fog.
Yeah.
The fog.
So
Have any of you guys actually seen Lost?
No.
So
Yeah.
that. Oh, you have.
That,
Oh.
remember the first time the first season I watched was the last season because you guys were on it.
Really?
So I was super.
I watched last
Yeah, that
episode
was
because you
very
guys watched it.
confusing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just think it's funny that like you guys all know that reference, even though you probably didn't watch it.
I went back and watched and I was like, oh, this makes more sense, but at the same time,
It
it
doesn't.
doesn't.
But yeah, that's what I think they're gonna go to.
So, all right, you heard it here first. Link believes that the last season of Stranger Things will be like Lost.
Oh no.
Yeah, no. Hawkins is an island. Vecna is fog.
None of it happened.
Yo, how good did Hopper look?
Oh man, let me tell you.
Boy.
And everyone talks about it and everyone comments on him.
I
I mean, you
heard-
kind of have to, right? Like,
Yeah. I heard that he actually went to prison in Russia for Black Widow, and that's how he lost all that weight.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, he's a method actor.
Yeah, there was that period of time where that movie was coming out and I saw the trailer for Stranger Things and I was like, so this is just what he did in that time period?
Yeah.
But didn't he? When did he do Hellboy? Didn't he also lose weight for Hellboy?
He was Hellboy?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was Hellboy.
Oh, I didn't watch
But that was like 2-3 years ago. Oh, they filmed this like what, 2 years ago?
I
A
don't
year and a
know.
half?
Why would they?
No, they filmed this after the pandemic or during the
But
pandemic.
even then, he was like he Hellboy, Crimson Red. What's his name?
The Red Guardian.
The Red Guardian, and now this.
How dare you?
So he
Yeah, 2019.
lost weight for these roles, and I mean, when you're that good, like, why do you want to gain the weight back? You get me?
Yeah, well, I don't know, 'cause cheeseburgers are delicious.
Oh yeah, I agree with you.
4th of July was
But
great.
what's his name?
for
What's the
other
guy's name?
people.
The actor's name?
Harbour?
Philip Seymour Hoffman?
Yeah, David Harbour is
Oh.
not Elvis, who's gonna stay in a room eating cheeseburgers all day.
Okay.
Wait, so what's your point?
That
That he got swole and he gonna
like,
stay
so
swole.
he's gonna stay swole. Yeah, might as well stay swole, right? If you're already putting in the hard work, and it's not that hard for you now, because you.
It's hard, man. It's hard.
I know, but when you're at his where he's at, you just have to keep up, continuing. you know,
Sure, we'll see.
you already beat the.
He wouldn't be the first actor to
Yeah,
not
but
keep it
nah,
up.
you can go.
No,
you
you
go back
can,
if he wants to.
but you don't. I don't think like why would you, right? You already beat the mind game. You get me? Like trying to get tricking yourself into going to the gym and working out. So it's like now it's like a habit.
This link depressing me, like the 2 years where I'm fit, and then the 4 years after that where I'm not, and then the 2 years where I get back in shape.
That.
Yeah,
I didn't mean that. It's just that's my problem with working out. Like I'm not in that habit of that mind that state of mind.
Flayer.
The state of mind where I'm like, oh, I consistently do this for fun. It's enjoyable now. It's like, ugh.
I mean, I don't think it's fun. I mean, for some people, it never gets fun. It might just be part of his job, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's fun for The Rock.
Well, yeah, because I think he lives.
That is his job.
Yeah.
No, but even when it was his job as a wrestler, he wasn't as big as he is now.
Yeah, because I think.
Yeah, but I feel like that's just been ingrained. I feel like
yeah, exactly. It's ingrained.
Has a strong work ethic.
Yeah,
exactly. Once you build that work.
Since football, I think it's in his family too.
No, but he was during when he started at the beginning of his wrestling career. He was a little bit big.
Actually,
like to get big.
Yeah, he has to fight against his genetics. That's why he wasn't like that.
No, he was chubby.
But his family's big, right?
He's big, but not muscular like he is.
Muscular big.
Yeah, but I feel like that part. I mean, like you can get. I'm talking about size.
Yeah, but you have to fight against because it's very easy
to gain weight.
Yeah, to gain weight. And I know he had like a couple surgeries early on to shed some of that weight while he was a wrestler.
There you go.
So, but whatever size you are, Dwayne Johnson and or David Harbour, we love you.
We love you.
And we support you.
Although keep up the the good work. Whatever you're doing, keep it up.
Whatever you choose to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, David Harbour's great though. I think he had some of the best emotional moments here.
He's so good.
So are we just all back in Hopkins? That's what the future of the show is, and we're all 15 of the cast members are side by side working together for this final season.
I'm excited for that because they're together.
I think it's all Hawkins, and it's just they're straight up battle.
They're gonna find a way to split 11 from them again.
You think so?
I mean, she's so OP,
and you can't depower her.
You can't depower her anymore. She's OP.
I think she's biting the bullet at the end.
You think
he's gonna die? I think so.
I think she should.
Well, she'll be an adult, right? With the 5-year jump.
Yeah.
Oh, going back really quick to David Harbour, I heard an anecdote that when he was on the set of Black Widow, they had the Russian prisons, and he was sending pictures to the Duffer Brothers.
Oh, yeah?
To show them, like, oh, look, this is what we're doing. Do it different. Like, make sure that it doesn't look like this, because this is what it's going to look like in Black Widow.
Method acting.
I don't know what that has to do with method acting, but...
Link's just been saying that.
Oh,
Method acting, yeah.
If you just throw that out enough, it'll stick.
I think he said it about Peru.
Okay.
That one counts though. No, I was thoroughly impressed with this season. I'm happy it's back. I'm happy you're back.
He was back last episode.
Yeah, but
he's still happy about it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he's happy that I'm back watching Stranger Things. We're all back watching Stranger Things after a 3-year hiatus.
And I'm not going back until season 5 comes out.
And it's strange. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, season 5 comes out. I heard that they're going to start writing in August.
Oh, okay.
So maybe we get 2024 is the next time we see them again.
Get on Reddit, get on Twitter, let them know what you want to see, what you don't want to see.
Yeah.
Bring back Eddie.
Forward this episode to the Duffer Brothers, please. Tag us at S4M Podcast so they can know what we like, what we don't like.
Let us interview you guys.
I'm sorry, Finn Wolfhard, if you're not on the last season. It was Gabe. It wasn't me.
It was Gabe.
Yeah, it was Gabe.
Should take him out.
This has been a strange experience. And Stranger Things is kind of a weird show. But you know what? Maybe we were ready for something weird in our life. The world's been kind of strange the past couple of years. And ironically, bringing that strangeness back into our routine kind of helps us feel normal. Sometimes the experiences that we can't explain, sometimes the unknown helps ground us, helps define us. And the things that we don't understand helps us accept that we can't understand and everything. We move year to year as we grow and we progress. And sometimes it feels like we jump forward into the future and we feel the ending of a chapter coming. It's the experience that defines us, even if those experiences sometimes feel a little different, feel a little weirder, and maybe even a little stranger than we expect them to do. But in the end, the world moves on and we move on week to week here alongside you as we keep searching. For more of this conversation, including a fun little experiment that we're going to have, stay with us on our Patreon. Feel free to subscribe to @S4M Podcast on Patreon.
Kerchow.